The top business stories, live from the Sky Newsroom. And breaking news in the last couple of minutes, Tulip Siddiq resigns from her role as a Treasury Minister. Further and faster, the Chancellor says the UK will accelerate its pursuit of growth. She defends her handling of the UK economy. Plus, checking out why a big change is coming at the tills, with the barcodes days potentially numbered. We're going to start with some breaking news in the last couple of minutes coming into Sky Centre, and that is the detectives investigating the murder of 14-year-old Kaylan Pasaka. Of course, you may remember this happened on a bus in southeast London in Woolwich last week. I've now said that they want to speak to two individuals. That is Colin Chabikwa, who's aged 15, and Musawa Zai, who is 16. The Metropolitan Police say they want to speak to two individuals, aged 15 and 16, into the relation of the murder of a 14-year-old on a bus in Woolwich last week. The Metropolitan Police making that appeal to the general public, and we'll have more on that story with Matt at the top of the hour at around 5 o'clock. But also other breaking news as well in the last 30 minutes or so, and that is, of course, that Tulip Siddiq has resigned as a Treasury Minister. It comes after allegations emerged about property linked to her aunt and the ousted former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. In a letter to the Prime Minister, the Labour MP said that while she had not breached the ministerial code, it is clear that continuing in her post would be a distraction from the work of the government. So it has to be said, maybe not necessarily a surprise, but in the last couple of minutes, she has formally resigned as a Treasury Minister after weeks and weeks of controversy. Let's bring in Paul Kelso, our economics and business correspondent, who is in the studio with us. Paul, very good afternoon to you. As I say, maybe not a surprise, but it's, it is a Treasury resignation and a blow to the government.
Yeah, she's a city minister, has also, crucially, I think, in relation to this, a responsibility for tackling corruption in the city, and she was alleged essentially to be benefiting from the fruits of corruption in Bangladesh, a country her mother, as Prime Minister, ran. Sheikh Hasina was in charge in Bangladesh for many years, and it is alleged by the new government in Bangladesh. She was ousted in August. The new government has alleged that the properties that Tulip Siddiq was occupying were the profits, essentially, of corruption in Bangladesh by that government. This has been referred to the anti-corruption czar in government, Laurie Magnus. His report today, interestingly, does not claim that anyone has breached the ministerial code, that there's been no wrongdoing to that effect, but perhaps the deadly line for Tulip Siddiq presented in true civil service fashion. He said it was regrettable she was not more alert to the potential reputational risks from her close family association with Bangladesh, given her role as an anti-corruption minister. So no wrongdoing, but untenable to be in charge of running anti-corruption operations while this hangs over her.
Yeah, and Paul, in the last couple of minutes, we also had a tweet from Kemi Badenoch, of course, who is the leader of the Conservative Party, His Majesty's opposition, saying it was clear at the weekend that the anti-corruption minister's position was completely untenable, yet Keir Starmer dithered and delayed to protect his close friends. Even now, as Bangladesh files a criminal case against Tulip Siddiq, he expresses sadness at her inevitable resignation. Kemi Badenoch ends her tweet by saying, weak leadership from a weak Prime Minister. Again, just a reminder of the politics of all of this.
Yeah, well, Tulip Siddiq certainly perhaps knew what was coming, because she was due to be travelling to China with the Chancellor of the Exchequer at the end of last week on that mission to drum up investment and bang the drum for the UK. But she remained at home to try and clear her name. But the wind's blowing against her, not just from the opposition, but internally, close to the Prime Minister perhaps, but not close enough that he could stick by her with this mounting. When you have a foreign government conducting an investigation into the homes occupied by one of your ministers, particularly if they have an anti-corruption role, this is very difficult to sustain.
Meanwhile, Paul, it's fair to say it has not just been a difficult day for Tulip Siddiq, but indeed also to a degree for the Chancellor as well. She's been fighting back this afternoon following a torrid few days on the market. Rachel Reeves said that the turbulence caused by soaring borrowing costs only underlined the need to go further and faster in search of economic growth. The Chancellor was talking in the Commons following her return trip to China, which had been criticised by opposition MPs.
Well, I went to secure tangible benefits for British businesses trading overseas. And the Shadow Chancellor said, well, it wasn't worth it. Well, you say that to HSBC, to Standard Chartered, Prudential, Schroders and the London Stock Exchange, who attended those meetings with me last week and have all said about the difference that it would make. Now, I have been under no illusion about the scale that we face. After 14 years of stagnant economic growth, higher debt and economic uncertainty. And we have seen global economic uncertainty play out in the last week. But leadership is not about ducking these challenges. It is about rising to them. The economic headwinds that we face are a reminder that we should, indeed we must, go further and faster in our plan to kickstart economic growth that plunged under the last government. By bringing stability to the public finances after years of instability under the party opposite.
There you go, that was the Chancellor speaking in the Commons a little earlier. Paul, what's extraordinary about all of this is, yeah, the market's been pretty turbulent. Yes, it's fair to say the Chancellor's been under pressure, though the market seemed to have stabilised today. Is even the very fact that there are suggestions, rumours, pushes from people that 6 months into this job, people are asking for her to resign.
Yeah, it says something about how poorly the budget went down. It says perhaps something too about the overall state of the economy. There's no magic money tree, but Rachel Reeves discovering there is no magic wand to waving this away. Her defence of the trip to China, I think we could have anticipated, as markets were turning a little against the UK last week, albeit reflecting a general fear of inflationary pressures driven by Donald Trump primarily. There was suggestions she might have turned back and not gone on that trip. I think the government reasoned that abandoning that trip would have lent a sense of genuine crisis to what at the moment isn't an economic crisis, it is a political headache. We heard the Chancellor there, the roll call of companies who went with her. She's trying to emphasise that there's corporate support for the measures she's putting in place. She'll be doing more drumming up amongst international investors next week when she goes to Davos, to the World Economic Forum. We've learned today Donald Trump will also be addressing that, albeit remotely, but Rachel Reeves will be trying to burnish the UK's appeal to investors at that, as well as reassure markets that the UK can be backed, and bluntly they should be lending money to the UK for the investment she plans at rates that it can afford. The hardest question for her, as she emphasises growth though, is the suggestion and the feeling that measures in that budget have impeded Britain's ability to grow, and that is going to be the challenge for her, not just for the next month, but for as long as she is in post, to demonstrate growth can be achieved while also landing taxes on business, albeit to fund public sector improvements Labour promised in the election campaign.
OK, Paul, busy afternoon. Thank you very much indeed, Paul Chancellor, our economics and business correspondent. Thank you. Busy afternoon indeed. You may have seen on the news a little earlier that the Princess of Wales was at the Royal Marsden Hospital a little earlier on. Of course, this is the hospital in which she had treatment for cancer earlier on this year. Well, she's since issued a statement after that visit in which she said that I wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to the Royal Marsden for looking after me so well during the last year. My heartfelt thanks goes to all those who've quietly walked alongside William and me as we've navigated everything. We couldn't have asked for more. The care and advice we've received throughout my time as a patient has been exceptional. In my new role as joint patron of the Royal Marsden, my hope is that by supporting groundbreaking research and clinical excellence, as well as promoting patient and family well-being, we might save many more lives and transform the experience of all those impacted by cancer. It is a relief to me now to be in remission, and I remain focused on recovery, as anyone who's experienced a cancer diagnosis will know it takes time to adjust to a new normal. I am, however, looking forward to a fulfilling year ahead. There's much to look forward to. Thanking you to everyone for your continued support. That is the Princess of Wales, their message, following her visit to the Royal Marsden Hospital, thanking those that have looked after her and talking about her thanks to all those who have quietly walked alongside William and herself as she has navigated a year in which she sought cancer treatment. OK, let's return back now to the business news and have a look at the markets affair this afternoon. The FTSE's been pretty stable, but down a little, 0.28% as it closed very shortly. And also let's have a look at sterling, which has been taking a real hammering from the dollar in particular, which has strengthened against most currencies, but also down against the euro as well. Sterling at 122 against the dollar, 118 against the euro. And as I say, yes, the dollar has strengthened massively in the last couple of months, but sterling across a whole basket of currencies is down, and that is notable, particularly against the euro. It was at an 8-year high, a post-Brexit high, not that long ago, and yet it's fallen 0.5% today. Well, let's speak to Adam Samu, who is head of high yield at Darren and joins us this afternoon. Very good afternoon to you, Adam. As I say, things have been a little bit more stable today, but those concerns continue, and we await inflation results coming out later on this week.
It's a tough market out there. And if we look at the UK economic movements, it's worth looking at the US economy first of all. As the saying goes in financial markets, when the US catches a cold, the rest of the world sneezes. And the payrolls numbers in the US on Friday came massively above expectations. It seems that maybe one interest rate cut in the US might still be possible this year, but there could also be the chance maybe of even rate hikes down the line. Add to that the chance of Trump raising tariffs as well. There's definitely concerns that have fed through to UK markets from the US.
And when we look at this, we clearly look at it in a global context. There is little doubt the dollar has strengthened. There are concerns about government borrowing, whether it's in Germany or the United States. But there are further concerns here, aren't there, Adam, if we're honest, about the state of the UK economy?
The UK economic climate is very challenging at the moment. We've seen 30-year gilt yields at post-1998 highs, for example. The situation is very difficult. We'll have a clue with the UK CPI number tomorrow on how the inflation situation is looking, but the fiscal situation is very challenging, first of all. The government will have to either raise taxes or reduce government spending. We need interest rate cuts, but there is the risk the economy overheats and inflation numbers might rise more than expectations. There's a lot of challenges out there in the UK, and that's impacting gilt yields considerably at the moment.
What do you think when you hear the Chancellor today saying that she feels she needs to go further and faster to find this economic growth? But where? How?
We need clarity from this government on the outlook for interest rates, government spending and taxes. The budget was a bit unclear, and we need more clarity on fiscal policy going forward. The inflation numbers tomorrow will be watched very closely, and that could stabilise the market if numbers come in line with expectations.
And do you think they will? I mean, what is your thought process about where inflation is not likely to be tomorrow, but further on this year? I mean, is government spending this year going to increase inflation? Are we potentially not going to see an interest cut that had been widely expected? Could we end 2025 with rates as they are?
If you look at other economies around the world, there's not that many interest rate cuts priced in. In the US, there could just be one interest rate cut this year. And there are chances if payrolls numbers in futures continue to be very high, inflation there could rise quite rapidly. The concern for the government has to be on the inflation outlook, keeping that under control while still stimulating economic growth. It's a tough balancing act, and the government will need to act fast on this.
OK, Adam from Debtwire, really appreciate your time and your analysis this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed. OK, let's bring you up to date with some of the rest of the day's business news. And TikTok has described a report that it could sell its threatened US business to Elon Musk as pure fiction. The short video platform's Chinese owners, ByteDance, are facing the prospect of TikTok being shut down permanently in the United States from this Sunday. That's when a US government ban on national security grounds is due to take effect. But Bloomberg is reporting that officials in Beijing, where TikTok's parent firm is based, were considering whether to allow a possible sale to the billionaire ex-owner if the order could not be overturned or delayed. Spain is planning to impose a tax of up to 100% on properties bought by non-residents from countries outside the European Union, which of course would include Britain. Speaking at an economic forum in Madrid, the Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said the tax would be unprecedented in Spanish history, but he stopped short of explaining how the plan would work or when it would be sent to the Spanish Parliament for approval. And you can get more, indeed, on that story and the rest of the money news on our Money blog. All you need to do is scan the QR code on your screen to access the blog on our website or, indeed, on the Sky News app. OK, you're watching Business Live on this Tuesday afternoon. Coming up next, are the days of the barcode numbered? We'll be explaining all that and lots more in just a couple of minutes.
Big stories don't always come from big cities. I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm Sky's Midlands correspondent.
You are not getting in this elevator, okay?
The judge made it very clear that she could see no justifiable reason why Sakulas wasn't here facing British justice.
I promised I would get him justice.
Free, wherever you get your news. This is what they're up against. The wind is the really big problems. It is back-breaking work and the smoke is thick. It's been working well. Water levels are dropping, but no one knows what impact further rain will have. What would you do if this place wasn't open? This is the exact spot in Nottingham where their 19-year-old son, Barnaby Webber, lost his life.
I just think it's so cruel and so harsh.
It's really scary. We're terrified.
In this community, I'm told that everybody knows someone affected by COVID.
Hopefully this will be the last wave.
Sky News gets the full story first. Change seems tantalisingly close in this corner of the UK. Wales was the first to introduce the plastic bag charge. It's legal to let go. Set the speed and take the hands off. It's almost driverless, but not quite. Hans is a highly trained police dog. The force is incredible. It's really frightening, actually. This is my patch, my specialism. It's also my home.
I'm James Matthews and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump, it would appear, is about to learn his fate. There's no doubting the strength of this hurricane as it roars through. Sky News, get the full story first. Do you fear a fourth indictment? Is it a drug?
He's from Sky News. He's from Sky News. He's entitled to ask me questions.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised.
If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
You want to talk business? Meet me in the On-Board Lounge. Flying minutes, fly better. Thank you.
Very welcome back to Sky News, and some more breaking news in the last couple of minutes, and that is that the Irish Times and indeed RTE are reporting that an Irish government is to be formed. You may remember there was an election at the end of last year when it seems that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, who were previously in the previous government, are likely to form a new government with independent MPs. So it looks like a deal has been reached in those coalition negotiations, and that Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil will yet again form the Irish government. And there will definitely be more on that at the top of the hour with Matt. Now, a big change in the way that we shop is on its way, apparently. Believe it or not, the humble barcode, the method that's been used for more than 50 years, is due to be replaced by QR codes. The world's largest barcodes organisation that oversees the international non-profit way that is organised, GS1, have been speaking to me, including its chief executive, Anne Godfrey.
We take 50 years of beeps at the till completely for granted, and yet I would say it's one of the best inventions for the retail industry in the last 100 years.
It is, but it is also a technology that many feel is maybe a little bit outdated.
It's a classic. It's not going anywhere fast, but we will see it being added to, slowly evolved into its smarter, more digitally aware sibling, which is the smart QR code.
And just talk us through what is the difference between a QR code and the old traditional barcode that we're used to?
If you think of the lines on a linear barcode, it's just that, it's linear. By moving to smart QR code, you add a second dimension. So you can scan 4,000 characters, or even more excitingly, you can actually link to live data that can change in real time and presented back to the consumer.
And so does this mean that, you know what, if you go to the supermarket in a couple of years' time, you'll be scanning QR codes and not barcodes? Is that fundamentally where we're at?
Absolutely, you can already do it. Many British brands for Christmas last year and this year were actually presenting QR codes. If you buy Branston or Hovis, you can already do that. And we think, and 46% of our members are saying, that by 2030 we'll be seeing QR as the key barcode on all products.
And you guys at GS1 have done quite a lot of research into this, haven't you, and trying to gauge where business opinion is on the changing technology?
Absolutely. We recently surveyed our 60,000 members and spoke to 500 retailers and manufacturers about how digital transformation is accelerating and how they're using it both for ESG reporting, customer experience and traceability. You know, what's in your product? Will it harm me? What do I do with it?
And you're also talking about essentially the traditional checkout disappearing. Now, we're all getting used to and have been for years self-service checkouts. Is this what you mean, more kind of Amazon-esque service where you just don't have to interact at all with scanning? What do you mean about the checkout disappearing?
I don't think the checkout will disappear, but I think use of smart QR will give shops options. So you could actually have mobile point of sale. You could actually have more people in the store following you around, giving you advice, upselling and cross-selling from a business perspective, or you can actually have people who prefer to go to the traditional point of sale and check out themselves. But I think smart QR gives businesses and retailers more options to give all the customers a better experience.
Okay, just two final questions. This is going to involve a cost, isn't it, for business? Are they up for it?
They're absolutely up for it. When we surveyed industry recently, 46% are already investing in the technology required. 52% are planning to do so in the next 2 years. And once the upfront costs of changing the scanners in store, and then the PDAs that the staff hold, and obviously the labelling and packaging, you get an immediate return on investment.
Now, I read that the first barcode was used in Ohio in 1974, so as I say, just over 50 years ago, to buy a packet of chewing gum. We've had QR codes now for a couple of decades. My last question is, isn't QR a bit old hat? Surely the next 10, 20, certainly 50 years means we won't need this technology at all, or it'll be incredibly different?
Well, none of us saw the original barcode coming. None of us could have dreamt what Smart QR code could do for us now. And I'm not psychic, so I'm going to go with Smart QR for at least 20 years.
There you go, Anna Godfrey speaking to me earlier. That's it from me on Business Live. Back, of course, tomorrow at 11:30. Up next, it is Matt with the news hour, the latest on Tulip Siddiq and a Dublin government. Stay tuned.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.